Alright folks, well the first part of this video was recorded, gosh darn it, right near midnight last night, and I'm a little concerned. I've not gone through the footage, but I feel like it's probably not very good. Like I said, I don't record tech videos often. I normally just make Let's Plays, and those are a little bit more straightforward, less to explain. I have a feeling I'm going to be putting a lot of things on the screen to further explain my motivations, but in any case, we are ready now to sign in. I got all the parts swapped in, got the drives installed, the new drives in the actual server cabinet itself, and the old drives in the disk shelf, and got all of that plugged in, and we're booted up. I've not actually tested to see whether or not any of the drives are seen, so I don't know if any of the new drives are actually working. I don't know if the disk shelf is visible. We're just going to sign in now. And I just picked a really basic password for setup, just in case something went horrifically awry, and I have to kind of start all over from the beginning. I don't want to have to type in a complicated password 7 or 8 times. I'll update it with a bigger one once we're done here today. But I guess the first thing we should go ahead and do, and it does look like everything is working here. We've got our processor reading correctly. We've got our 62 gigs of RAM. It uses, is it GB-bytes? So it's not going to say 64, but 62.7 is correct. We've been running for 19 minutes, so I just got this powered on, and we are on TrueNAS scale 23.10.2, in case you were curious. I suppose the first thing we can do is we can go over to storage, and I'd actually like to view the individual drives. So we can click on disks up here, and let's see what we can find. So it's showing 10 of 20. Let's make it as big as possible. So we got our boot drive here, and then we have our 2 other drives. These are the Optane drives. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 other disks. Nothing from the disk shelf. Something I will say that is encouraging is that the SSDs that were in Pool 2 are showing up here. And they are shown to be part of a pool called Pool 2, exported. So we should be able to just import those and continue on with that as it was. I don't actually have the keys to actually mount that. There's encryption key that you have to have. So I'll have to do that on another computer where I have those stored or copy them over. But that's not what I want to do right now. What I want to do right now is actually figure out how the heck to get the disk shelf working. It's not actually critical to get the disk shelf working. The data should still be on the disks that are in the disk shelf. So even if we can't get it connected, we at least have that sort of offline backup. And we can use the actual online backup in a separate TrueNAS server that I have to do the restore over the 10 gig Ethernet connection. I don't know if I mentioned that in the video, but the motherboard that this server is running on has a 10 gig connection. I'm not going to be saturating that with the number of disks we have in it now, but we should be able to get, you know, decent speeds. But I'd rather not do it that way. I'd much rather be able to just mount the disk, the array that already exists. So I'm wondering what I might have to do. At least we've confirmed the system boots up, so I think the first thing I'll do is shut it down and go out there and see whether or not maybe I plugged it into the wrong port. I could probably try to just hot swap that, try plugging it into a different port on the actual controller in the back of the disk shelf. But I'd rather not do that with the systems running. Even though it's a server, and servers tend to be built in such a way that they support hot swap because you're in a server environment, you want to avoid downtime. I don't know that to be sure. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. But at least it looks like all of our other disks are online. 12 new disks plus 7. Yeah, that's correct. And then the 3. Yep, that checks out. So we'll go ahead and shut it down. And this is why I don't use big passwords. Because when I reboot it, you know, I can just type in that short little password again. And then once everything's up and running, I'll put in the marathoner. So that took less than a minute to walk out to the server rack and put eyes on what I think was the problem, which was just carelessness on my part. So to demonstrate, I've actually pulled up on the NetApp website their documentation for the DS4243 and DS4246. I think mine's the 43, but it could be the 46. I'd have to double check. And for this, it doesn't really matter. What you need to know is that on the back, there are 2 separate controllers, okay? Now, I was not quite sure whether or not they would work independently, so like the disks, 12 disks in the top, 12 disks in the bottom, or if they would do redundancy. And turns out this answers the question, because I put all the disks into the top section, so these top 12 slots, I only used 8 of them, but that's where I put the disks, and then I didn't mean to do this. This wasn't intentional, but I just plugged into the bottom controller. Carelessness. Alright, I was just getting everything hooked up. I took that cable that I showed you and I just jammed it into the bottom one, and obviously that didn't work. So I've been perusing this document here and I've realized that yes, you can do redundancy with these, but you have to take these little plates out and add 2 additional controllers. So you have a total of 4 controllers. It doesn't do crossway between the 2. That's also why there's 4 potential power supplies. This is the power supply for the top. This is the main power supply for the bottom. Those are the 2 that I have. Those are the 2 that my system came with. But you can get 2 more, so a spare for the top and a spare for the bottom, which I don't have. But that is good to know. So the server is back up, and let's see what has changed. There we go. Gonna go to our storage, gonna go to our disks, and here is the moment of truth. It is showing 28 devices now, and there is our Pool 1 exported devices. Some of them, there's another one, there's another one. Fantastic! This is great news. So if I wanted to just go ahead and mount those, I'm pretty sure what I would do is I would go to storage, import pool, select the pool, pool 1 in this case, and hit import. I don't have the key necessary to do that with. I'm going to have to go copy that off of, like I said, another system. I actually want to do something a little bit different though. I want to import that pool with a new name, because I want the new pool that we're going to create, which we could go ahead and create now, I want it to be pool 1. I want pool 2 to stay the same. That's the SSD one. We're not doing anything with that. So I actually want to import pool 1 as pool 3. And we can do that, but we have to do it through the command line over here in shell. And I don't actually know how to do that when you have to have a key. So, a key file. Well, we're going to just try it. Let me get the actual instructions pulled up here. So the instructions are apparently, so zpool import, and then the original pool's name, which I think you have to be exactly correct when you type this in. So I'm going to go import pool. I'm going to double check the actual name. I don't know if I need the string of character that follows. We might be able to go with just pool underscore 1. But the command is zpool import pool underscore, and I bet if I hit tab, no, 01, it does not automatically fill in the rest. But presumably if we hit enter, it would import that pool. But if we do space, and then we add, and I'm following instructions right now from TrueNAS's website, if we just type in a new name, it will import pool 1 as, let's say, pool 3. Why have you lied to me? Command not found zpool. There are people saying that it worked with their exact version of TrueNAS. I'm confused now and slightly concerned. Followed this guide and it worked on TrueNAS scale 2212, worked perfectly in 2310. What happens if I just type zpool? We're playing with fire here. You don't want to just mess around in your command line interface. You could ruin everything. Now, I have another backup, so I still want to be careful. Let's see if zpool... Am I supposed to do this as root? Surely not. Surely not. Sudo. You gotta use sudo. Okay. Sudo or sudo, technically it means super user do, which is why some folks say sudo, and they're not wrong for that. Sudo sounds better. Sudo! Actually, so we can just hit up a couple of times to get that back in there. Go back to the back and type in sudo, and then enter. Type in our password. Ooh, that's the longest pause I've ever had in my life. This is I think they call that a pregnant pause. I'm just waiting on this thing to give birth. Come on. At least give me an error and tell me, oh. So, assuming that worked properly, we should be able to type in sudo export pool underscore 3. Here we go. Did I misspell export? No? Sudo zpool. I really shouldn't be allowed anywhere near computers. It is a miracle. I started using Linux at the end of 2021, and I've yet to completely destroy a computer just messing around in the terminal, which is like, at this point, a miracle. It's going to happen. It's going to have to. I've got to learn my lesson at some point. I can't just recklessly type half of a command in a system and not have some sort of horrible consequence. But there we go. That's done. So if we go back to storage now, and we go back into the CLI, and we go to import pool, will it give me the option? Pool 3, baby! That's the one we're looking for. Now, I think if I tried to import pool 3, it would ask me for a key file, which I currently do not have handy, but I have a thumb drive. I can go to the computer where I know it is, and I can bring it back. But let's see if this works. Oh, hello. Are you just working? Okay. Okay, that seems to be working. It just seems to be... Maybe I have to have the key file to access the data on it? It seems to import the pool just fine. I guess we should have expected that, because it imported it just fine in the CLI without needing... When do you need that key? Is my data even actually encrypted, or was that always just a lie? So like I was saying before, though, it is very full, and it is very, very mad about it, and I understand we're going to be rectifying the situation here today. Oh, there we go, ZFS encryption. We need to unlock it. I'm going to just go to the other computer, because I'm assuming what I'm going to have to do is hit unlock from key file. I'm just going to go to the other system where the file already exists and do this step, so we can just continue. Alright, I got that taken care of pretty easily. One thing that I will note is that the encryption file has the name of the pool in the file. So if you try to use it, and in my case it still said pool_01, it will not work. You need to open it up with a text editor, just change the pool name to the correct one, save it, maybe make a copy first, in case you accidentally delete something you shouldn't, and then you can't restore it, and then your key is ruined, and you'll never get your data back. I made a copy of the key, and then changed the name to the correct name in the copy, and then it immediately worked and unlocked. We have the storage vault here with terabytes of video data on it that I don't want to lose. Again, there's another backup, but it still feels risky, and I think it should. When you're dealing with data like this, even if you know there's a backup, treat it like there isn't, and that any mistype in the CLI could erase all of your data. So you definitely want to make sure you include the word zpool in your zpool command. Don't be like me, don't be an idiot, but now we are going to create a new pool. So the option here is to assign these disks to pool 3, which we could do. We could add more VDEVs and just make it bigger, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to go up here to create pool, and we're going to name this one. Sorry about that. The following disks have exported pools on them. Using those disks will make existing pools on them unable to be imported. Gotcha. Pool_01. Absolutely, we want them encrypted. I'm aware. They did actually change the way you do this in one of the more recent updates. It kind of walks you through it step by step. I don't know if I like it quite as much, but it's fine. So here we can choose our VDEV type. So normal VDEV type used for primary storage operations. ZFS pools always have at least one data VDEV. So we talked about this in the earlier video. We're going to do RAID Z2, and we're going to manual disk selection. I've never actually gone through this before with the new layout. I've always used the older one, so I'm trying to figure it out. Disk size. So we've got RAID Z2, that's our VDEV type. This is the drive we're going to be using, the sort of drive size. And we're going to do a width, so that's how many drives per VDEV. We're going to do a width of 6. So that'll give us 6 drives per VDEV, and that's 4 drives worth of storage space, and then 2 drives worth of redundancy in case a drive fails. And the number of VDEVs, it's only going to let us make 2 because we only have 12 disks that are currently free. This is a strange way of doing things, but it seems like it's kind of going out of its way to make sure you don't accidentally use drives that will have other pools on them or that you might lose data on. But if you're a little apprehensive or nervous, maybe do the manual disk selection. That's a little bit more the way it used to be before they added this sort of step-by-step situation. So we're going to go to next, and this is the ZFS log device that can improve speeds of synchronous writes, optional write cache that can be removed. So this is what we're doing. I think I called it a ZIL before, which is ZFS intent log. Either they renamed it or I was always thinking of the wrong thing. I don't know. I think that's what this is. So we're going to choose to do these as a mirror. So the data on each of them will be identical. Again, this is only going to cause you to lose data, I think. Do your own research. But my understanding is that it is only a write cache that is only going to, if the drives fail, impact what you're currently writing to the system. So if they both die, we're not losing data that is currently stored on the array. With that said, I'd rather do a mirror and not have to worry about that, at least as much. Obviously, both of the SSDs could still fail, even if they are in a mirror. So it automatically selected the 54.96 gigabyte, and I know that you're probably... I'll be right back. I think a cat just knocked something over. This is Yuffie. Yuffie just knocked a drill off the table. I guess she takes after her namesake, don't you? Can you hear her purring? She's never been in here before. And I'm not going to leave her in here, because she will destroy something. So, back to the kitchen with her. We only do professional productions here, okay? So like I was saying, gigabyte, that's what the big G, little I, big B stands for. It is different than a gigabyte. I'm not just saying it in a funny way. It is a different way of measuring data size. So, gigabyte. Some people probably say gigabyte. That's actually funnier. Not relevant, though. Not relevant to what we're doing. So, that is, in fact, the only thing that's left in the system that we can use. And with the 2... that's exactly what we want, so we're going to hit next. Spares. Spares are great. I probably should have spares, so basically if you have available bays, which we do thanks to that disk shelf, you can just put drives in there that will not be a part of the pool. They won't be used for storage or for redundancy, but if a drive fails somewhere in the system, it'll just automatically start replacing that disk with one of the spare disks and get you back up and running. The cost of buying 12 additional disks meant that I was kind of priced out of getting any spares at the time, but I hope to get some in the future, and you can add them later. It's not essential to add them when you first set up the pool. Also, I want to note, when I planned this project, 8 terabyte drives, secondhand, were about $20 less than they were when I actually purchased them. The prices went up. Now, I understand prices for NAND went up because they stopped producing as much NAND, but used hard drives? I feel like I'm being abused in the marketplace here. Anyway, no spares, moving on to cache. This is a level 2 read cache. ZFS and TrueNAS, they don't really have like a write cache. That's not what the log device is. It's not going to write data to the SSDs in the way that you might be thinking. And the level 2 ARC is just a read cache. If you have plenty of RAM, you don't really need this. And you're probably going to be better off just buying more RAM as much as you can fit in your system. I currently have 4 16 gig DIMMs for 64 gigs, but I could add another 4. It is a Threadripper, after all, so I could just stick another 4 DIMMs in there and have up to 128 gigs, and that would probably be fantastic. Something, again, once I have the money, I'd love to do. But for right now, you'd want to make sure you had an SSD that was very, very fast and had a lot of heavy write endurance, because it's not actually going to store things to that SSD. It'll just, as you're accessing them, kind of copy them to the SSD. So that's going to end up having a lot of writes on it, and if you just get like a regular commodity consumer SSD, it's probably not going to last very long, depending on how you use your server. I would definitely prioritize RAM upgrades. Max out your RAM first, and if you're still having issues, maybe you have a lot of people accessing this thing at once, sure, add some level 2 ARC. We're not going to worry about it. That's not really how we use our server. Metadata. If you are having trouble, let's say you have a database stored on your server. This is, again, only my understanding, but thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of tiny files, you're going to want to do this, because this would make browsing through that much more quickly, okay? All of the metadata for everything on the server, instead of being stored on the spinning Rust, will be stored on a super fast cache. You could actually do this with hard drives if you wanted to have several drives in a mirror and get crazy fast read speeds off of them. You could do that. Seek times might be a bit lower as well, but you'd really want to go with something like a high-speed NVMe disk, and you're going to want it in mirrors. Or in some form of redundancy, because unlike the log, which we added a log, this is essential. And if you lose your metadata drives, all of your data on the spinning Rust is effectively gone. Like, the ones and zeros are there, but without that metadata, you're not going to be able to make any sense of it. I think you can also use these to store smaller files. So if you want to have a portion of the metadata drives be used for super small files, you can do that. We're not doing this right now. I'd like to. This is something that you can add later, but the problem is it's not going to go back and retroactively move your metadata from the Rust to the new, if you add like a fast NVMe mirror. Only new files will have their storage stored there. Now, a trick around that is to move files around. That would cause the new metadata to be generated, but I'm not worried about that right now. Again, that's really only going to help with kind of perusing through all of your files and bring down seek times. Very useful in some circumstances. I have fewer, much bigger files, so browsing through my server has never been an issue for me. That could change as it grows, but as of right now, it's not an issue, and by the time it is, we'll probably be building a whole new server anyway, and we can just add that from the beginning. Dedupe is awesome. I wish I was setting up dedupe right now. People are scared of it. Dedupe is great. I think that Craft Computing has a fantastic video on it, but basically, if you are the type of person like myself who has 7 different versions of the exact same file, this will make sure that there's only actually one of them on the array. Like, all 7 of them will be there, but there will only really be one. Now, the reason you would give dedupe its own special disk is just for speed, right? So it says that your deduplication tables are going to be stored on a special VDEV type. These VDEVs must be sized to X gigabyte to each X tibibyte of general storage, which I assume just means if you have 10 terabytes of storage on your array, you're going to want 10 gigabytes for the dedupe table. Although I imagine you could probably oversize it. You probably just can't undersize it, but I don't know that for sure. Again, look into it, but I'm pretty sure you can set this up later if you want to, because we're not going to be enabling dedupe right now anyway. But there we go. Looks like everything's ready to go. Don't hit the big red button that says start over. We're going to hit create pool, and it's going to create pool 0 encryption. Let's go. The contents of all added disks will be erased. I don't even know what's on these disks. I bought them secondhand. I probably would rather not know, honestly. That's fine. That's what we want. Confirm and continue. And I've actually had this fail a number of times for arbitrary reasons. I think the last time I was setting up a pool, it just kept saying no. No. It just kept failing with weird abstract errors, and I just rebooted the system and it started working. Never did figure out why. That was on a different system, though. Hopefully we're not going to have that issue here, because it looks like it's at 95% and it's just setting pool options. Whew. I saw the big red button. That is to download your encryption key. I will go ahead and do that, but you don't actually have to do that right now. So mine is now downloaded. You can, at any point, if we go back to here, you can go over to Manage Datasets, and then export all keys or export your key, and that'll save it to whatever system you're accessing it from. Now that's for pool 0. For pool 1, yeah, right here, ZFS encryption, export all keys, export key. You can just go ahead and get that there. So now we want to take all of the data from pool _ 03 and move it to pool _ 01. I suppose you could just share both of these as an SMB and on a different computer, select all the files, and just drag them from one to the other. It's gonna take a long time. I think at that point you would be routing it through that computer. So it's going to go out of this pool, into the network, into your computer, back into the network, and then into the other pool. I'm pretty sure is how that would work. I might be wrong. It might do it inside the server. I don't think so, but correct me if I'm wrong. But also, if it gets interrupted, it's just done. It's not going to restart. So we want to use a system inside of TrueNAS to do that for us. If I was a clever boy and I was running snapshots on pool 03, I could use ZFS Replication to replicate one of those existing snapshots to pool 01. But I've never created a snapshot of pool 03, and you have to have a snapshot to use replication. The alternative would be to use rsync, just create an rsync task and then run it once, and that would also work. I reckon if we went to, yeah, here we go. So we've got scrub tasks up here in 5 days. I'm actually going to disable both of those because I don't know how long this copy is going to take, and I don't want a scrub to accidentally occur in the middle of it. I think the system's smart enough to not do that. But yeah, here's everything I was talking about. We got our snapshots, we got our replications, and we've got our rsyncs. I am familiar with rsync because I use rsync. Rsync is how I backed up pool 03 to the other server that I have, the backup server. I have it automated to run every evening, and it just copies everything over. It does versioning and all of that. It's fantastic. That is how I know to do it. So maybe we should do this instead. So it looks like I can use either the pool itself or the vault specifically if I didn't want to snapshot the entire pool, but I do. If I want to do pool 3, I've got it set to 1 year of life because what does it matter? We're deleting it anyway. Set to take separate snapshots of the dataset and each of its child datasets. Leave unset to take a single snapshot only for the specified dataset without child datasets. I mean, I want the datasets. Why are these things always worded so peculiarly, where I'm not actually sure if I want that? Do I want separate snapshots of the dataset and each of its child datasets? No. I just want one snapshot. But then leave unset to take a single snapshot only of the specified dataset without child datasets. That makes it sound different. Like, I think I understand what it's saying, but let's really, if you read what it says, it's a little confusing. Do you want a separate snapshot of the dataset and the child datasets? Or do you want to take a single snapshot of only the specified dataset without child datasets? I'm turning on recursive. I ain't taking no risks here. Here we go. This might be helpful. Creates dataset snapshots even when there have been no changes to the dataset from the last snapshot. I don't know if this matters for the first one. I'm going to disable this because I don't actually want it to run on any kind of schedule. And there's no other way other than, I guess, setting a custom one. But, oh lord, no, never mind. I'm going to set it to monthly and I'm going to leave it disabled. I'm going to leave this on and I'm going to hit save. And then it says that it's pending. So I should be able to manually run this now. I was under the impression I would be able to make it immediately do a snapshot. And you probably can from the command line, but I want to do it here. So if I hit snapshots and then I hit add, dataset, pool 3, manual name, that's fine. Naming scheme, recursive, again, I don't know, hit save. Is it going to generate a snapshot? I guess it just did. I guess that's the snapshot. So if I go back to replication tasks, because I've just made a snapshot, this is periodic snapshot tasks, but I have manually created one. Oh, cool, yeah. So it made 2 of them, and we've got pool 03 with a reference to 279 kilobytes, and then the actual vault with a reference 37.74. You see what I mean? I'm confused. I guess we want to run it in recursive is the important thing there. You know what it might be? And I don't believe that I didn't figure this out sooner. In my mind, I always picture the top dataset as only ever containing other datasets. But I suppose you could put files in it, right? Like, what if we weren't selecting the top dataset? What if we had choose the vault? And the vault itself has more sub-vaults, or more sub-datasets, and then also individual files. And we just wanted to back up its files and not all the other datasets. I get it now. It all makes sense. It just took me a minute. But back in data, but back on this screen, first off, we're going to delete that. Delete periodic snapshot. Yeah, get rid of it. Because we don't need the periodic snapshots. We have that manual snapshot that we just took. So if we go back to... I'm literally figuring this out as we go here. I want to add a replication task. And I want to choose on this system. So that's the source. The destination is also on this system. And I want to grab pool 3, the vault, 0 snapshots found. Oh, it'll create them automatically. Oh, so I didn't even have to manually go in there and fiddle around and see what I was doing. That's good. You know what I could probably do instead, though? That would be a lot easier, is I can choose pool 3, and I can hit recursive, and then we can choose mount, and we can choose pool 1, encryption. This probably encrypts it in flight. I'm assuming... I'm going from one encrypted pool to the other. I don't think that I need to further... do I? Oh, inherit encryption is maybe what I want. There's advanced replication. Oh, mistakes were made. Go back to the wizard. Get rid of everything. No! I can never adequately express to you why you should never do what I'm doing right now, where I am just making this all up as I go. Please, please, never do this. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, will this put pool 3 into pool 1? We don't want that. What we want is to put the vault into pool 1. We don't want to put pool 3 and pool, we just want to put the vault. So I'm going to click recursive. Not that it matters because there's no sub data sets in the vault, but I'm going to click it. Encryption, inherit encryption, because there's already encryption, but this could, as I see things right now, the worst that could happen by doing this, because all we're doing is reading the files off of our previous pool and then writing something to the new pool. The worst that can happen is it doesn't work properly. But all of our data will still be on the source pool. We're not doing anything to the source pool other than reading it. And if I didn't already have a backup, I would not be flying blind here. I'm going to click next. I'm going to click run once. Make destination dataset read only. Absolutely not. Destination snapshot, never delete, because it's not going to be a snapshot when it's done. Ideally, save. Task started. Replication. Pool 03 vault to Pool 01 has started. Close. Where do I watch that happen? Up here? So, somewhere on the system, that is happening. Presumably it's going to make snapshots. Yep, there's a new snapshot. That's the auto snapshot, unrelated to the manual one we made previously. So that's been made. Yep, will not be destroyed automatically. 37.74. Okay, good. And then, replication failed. Re-encrypting already encrypted source dataset while preserving its properties is not supported. Okay. Alright, that didn't make any sense to us anyway. So I'm going to delete this replication task because we were struggling with that anyway and it didn't really make any sense. We're going to try again. We're going to go from this system. We're going to go to... By the way, this isn't meant to be a tutorial. I hope you folks didn't think that. I'm just walking you through a thing that I am doing, in case you're curious and wanted to go along for the journey. But I'm going to go from the vault, going to make it recursive for no reason. I don't actually want to select pool 3, I just want to choose the vault. So the vault is selected, one snapshot found. The snapshot we have is good, so we don't have to worry about it. It's not going to create a new one. And then we're going to choose pool 1. We're going to ignore encryption because it's already there. We're going to click next. We're going to run once, never delete, don't make it read-only, and click save. Okay, the task is started. It's down here now. I feel like the first time we clicked a button, this did not pop up down here, unless I just wasn't paying any attention at all, but it says pending. The logs are available for this task. I would expect it to pop up here in a minute. So it already says that this one stopped, but that is actually the exact time that I hit the go button. So it says here that already exists and is its own encryption root. The configuration is not supported yet. If you want to replicate into an encrypted database, please encrypt its parent dataset. Error. Yeah, okay. It didn't work. Destination dataset Pool 01 already exists and is its own encryption root. This configuration is not supported yet. If you want to replicate into an existing dataset, please encrypt its parent dataset. Yeah, I got no clue what that means. Someone is like sitting in the comfort of their home right now, beating their head against a keyboard, watching this in a rage, trying to figure out why I am such an idiot. Do you think that it's trying to name it Pool 01? Do we think that might work? And if so, do I need to actually inherit encryption now? Because this is encrypted. Again, let's just see what happens. Run once. Don't make it read-only. Never delete. Save. It has started. Immediately failed. I'm pretty sure that Tommy from Lawrence Systems has a video about this that I watched a year ago. We might end up over there. But gosh darn it, if I'm not going to try my best to figure it out on my own. So exact same thing as before, except we're not enabling encryption. We're just going to hit next. And do all of this again. And hit save. And let's see what's happening. Okay, this is different. We immediately have this. It did not immediately error out. I think we do not need to have some kind of separate encryption from the looks of things. It makes sense we should leave encryption unchecked. Now we know. And of course it wouldn't just go into the pool dataset. It needs to have its own dataset name. So we've given it the name vault, and currently it's done 21 gigabytes of 34.38 tibibytes. We might actually be getting somewhere with this, and I think we could probably go to our storage, and look at that, we're using 0.1%. 38 gigs! That's crazy! We already got 38 gigs in there! Just refreshed, and we're already up to 74. Now, I would actually like to see what this looks like. So if I go to Manage Datasets, Pool 1 now has the vault. It is currently locked. Should we make sure we can unlock it? I'm gonna assume it's the same encryption key as this vault. So, do I want to not mess with it while it's going? I am going to leave it alone. I'm going to let it run, and then when it's finished, I'll record the finale for this video. How long will that take? I don't know, but I don't think it's going to be too long, because it's already at 120 gigabytes. I gotta tell you, so far, this ZFS replication stuff is a heck of a lot faster than it was trying to back everything up using rsync over the network. That first backup took ages, like impossible ages, and I knew that I could use ZFS replication over the network. I just didn't, but now I'm thinking maybe I should. Of course, that would require that I delete everything on that pool that I created, using rsync, and then use ZFS snapshots to reback everything up. I'm not going to go crazy and do that right now. I actually want to see kind of where this gets us first. It's already up to 127. If I click off there and come back, it's going to be up to probably, like 150 by now, 160. It's almost 170, so it's moving pretty quick at this pace. It's going to chew through 37 terabytes, I feel like, tibibytes, in no time at all. In case you were curious, I'm in reporting right now, and this is the moment we started the replication properly. And CPU temperatures have climbed, but have mostly stabilized now around, almost 40, with the occasional spike up to 46 for some reason. 300 gigs. Okay, I'm just going to stop now, and we're going to let this finish, and when it is done, I'll find out whether or not I can... Can I actually unlock that data set and use that data? I don't know. We'll find out. Well, folks, it is the third day of this little adventure, and I've got to say I am very impressed so far with what we accomplished using the ZFS replication, because it took less than 24 hours. That might not sound that impressive if you think about, okay, you're moving just a mere shy of 38 terabytes along a SAS wire. It's not going to take that long. I'm just thinking about how it took a week to do the rsync. And I'm just really impressed with how this turned out. We do have one issue, though, which is that I don't actually know if I can access these files because the ZFS encryption is locked. I'm assuming it's just the same encryption from here. And if we go in here and we look at ZFS encryption, currently it's unlocked, but it's locked with the same encryption as the root. So we can click go to encryption root, and that takes us here. And we can export key or export all keys. And I'm curious about all keys. I assume export key is for the root data set, so pool _3. All keys, does that imply that it's going to do the root and the subsequent child data sets? I'm going to click that one, and I'm going to click download keys. Keys for all nested data sets with encryption applied will be downloaded. So I don't know why you can't just pick one, but there we go. We've got dataset pool 03 keys.json. So it didn't download any child datasets, but I'm assuming that that is because it is inheriting the encryption from the parent directory. So I'm just going to change the pool name from 03 to 01 and save that. So that's a file we downloaded yesterday, but it was just still in the download tray. It only downloaded the one JSON. So we're going to go here to Vault. We're going to hit unlock. Unlock child encrypted roots. That is what we're trying to do. So I didn't change the name of the file. I only changed the name inside of the file itself. And I'm going to click save. Okay. Key not provided. I mean, it was. All right, I renamed the file to dataset pool 01, and I'm going to unclick force because I don't know what that does, and it's probably a bad idea to click on things when you don't know what they do. I'm going to click save. Ugh! The only other idea I have would be to add a slash and type vault. Save. So we've got it added in there again. We're going to click save. Oh, these datasets will be unlocked with the provided credentials. Continue. Successfully unlocked. There we go. We know what we're doing. I could have Googled that. I'm sure I could have found that answer very quickly and taken fewer risks in the process. But for me, this is like a puzzle, and I like to solve puzzles. And if I can figure it out myself, I'd rather do that. I don't recommend you do it that way. Unless you know what you're doing, look up guides, you know, find the correct way of doing things. Don't try to brute force it. But this is fun for me, and we have that backups. I'm leaning heavily on that backup as I do these horribly risky maneuvers. So with that moment of truth out of the way, I went ahead and I enabled SMB, and I created a user specifically to use for accessing the vault over SMB. And so I've got Dolphin fired up here, and as you can see, Creator Vault, it's there. It's all there. We got our assets, our content vaults, our... You know what, actually, I probably need to go through and organize a lot of this, because a lot of this is like finished videos. I don't put finished videos there anymore. That's like a holdover folder from a bygone era that's going to be in the content creation vaults, and they're categorized by series now, by channel and then by series. Well, I just spent way too much of my life trying to get KDismark to work, and it's just not going to right now. I keep getting some error message, so we're going to go ahead and call it here. I'm pretty pleased with the results. I'm not finished, of course. I need to change that password. I need to make some adjustments to permissions. I need to mount up the other pool, Pool 2. I completely forgot about it. I've been so focused on getting things copied from Pool 3 to Pool 1, making sure that it works and that it's searchable. I forgot. I actually saw the unassigned disks up here earlier, and I was like, what are those? That's the SSD pool. It wasn't really relevant to today, but it's there. I can get that imported, and we know how to do it. Overall, I'm very pleased. That replication was so fast that I'm actually considering keeping snapshots enabled, actually creating them on a schedule, as opposed to that one-off that we made, and using that for my backups moving forward instead of rsync. I'll have to do a test to see how fast that is over the network. I'm assuming it's going to be pretty dang fast, just based on the results we got here. I mean, I know it's a whole second computer involved, and it's going down a 10 gig connection, but I have a feeling that's going to be pretty snappy. So I'm going to have to get that set up and working as well. But I hope you folks have enjoyed this. It's not the kind of content I normally make. Hopefully you all enjoyed it, and until next time, thank you folks for watching. God bless you, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.